Good evening, viewers. It is Thursday, the 13th of October, 2011, and a very warm welcome to you on The Sport, your weekly interactive and favorite show. Now, on Monday, Parliament came out of recess to discuss the oil agreements government had signed with oil production companies. And when the debate began, attention was diverted to bribery allegations on 3 government ministers. Western Youth MP Gerard Karuhanga, without mincing his words, tabled several documents. He said pinned Internal Affairs Minister Hilary Onek, Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa, and Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi. Yesterday, President Yoweri Museveni, while addressing the press, said the documents had been around and were forgeries. To help put the record straight is the man himself, Gerard Karuhanga, our guest on The Sport tonight. I will be putting him on the spot tonight, but first, let's set the stage.
The chickens have come home to roost. Senior ministers who have been cited in several corruption scandals are again featuring in alleged bribery in the oil sector. Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi, Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa, and Hilary Onek of Internal Affairs have been accused of taking bribes from oil companies. And as MPs demand that they resign to pave way for investigations, Onek, whose name is coming up for the first time in grand corruption, says he is ready to quit if found culpable.
Yeah.
Won't you resign to pave way for investigations?
Yeah, if necessary, I'll step down. Can even step aside now. I don't really bother. I really don't bother about that. Because really, to me, I want the truth to come out.
But Kutesa and Mbabazi, who are long-time confidants of President Yoweri Museveni, are sticking to their guns, saying they are innocent.
In Kenya, there is a law that when you are mentioned, you should step aside. That's not the case in the law of Uganda. And besides these allegations being made here, I have proved to Parliament, those who cared here, that these documents are forgeries.
If there were serious investigations, and there was a case that I was involved in any impropriety, of course, why not? But you cannot ask a public official to resign anytime anyone springs up an accusation without any basis.
John Patrick Amama Mbabazi, now Prime Minister and leader of government business in Parliament, has served in many portfolios including defense and the security ministries. Once referred to as Mr. Clean, Mbabazi has featured in the shillings 11 billion NSSF Temanga land scandal and alleged mismanagement of Chogam funds. He was cleared in both cases. Embattled Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa, who has been summoned by the Anti-Corruption Court in regard to the Chogam scam, was censured in 1998 in the 6th Parliament over the Customs House scandal. He was also adversely mentioned in the CNN campaign, codenamed Gifted by Nature, where the country lost billions of shillings. And now he's on the list of those who allegedly took bribes from oil companies. Onek has served as Minister of Agriculture, Energy, and now Internal Affairs Minister. Now some MPs are collecting signatures for a motion to censure the ministers if they don't resign.
If the President cannot take action, Parliament should take action. And the action we should take is to censure them under Article 118.
That if they think they will take the advantage of our number in the House to cover their evils, they should forget. We will not accept that as NRM.
These are dirty individuals. I think they should step down and they slowly begin to cleanse themselves.
You cannot prosecute somebody just because people make malicious allegations on him and you just rush in and you come to conclusions.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching On The Sport. Now, before we go into this debate, our poll question for tonight is: do you believe the bribery claims labelled against 3 government ministers and the authenticity of the documents tabled in Parliament? Do you believe the bribery claims labelled against 3 government ministers and the authenticity of the documents tabled in Parliament? Now, you can send us your answers to on your phone, say yes or no, and send your SMS to 8778. We'll show you the results of that poll at the end of this show, or towards the end of this show. On The Sport tonight is Gerard Karuhanga, Honourable Member of Parliament for Youth in Western Uganda. Welcome, you're on The Sport.
Thank you, Morris.
For the benefit of those who probably didn't follow the debate on Monday and Tuesday, you tabled a lot of documents.
Yes.
Some communication between Tullow Oil and banks, and some communication from different individuals.
Yes.
As the whistleblower on Monday, just briefly take us through what your documents say about these three ministers.
Yes. Yeah, we have evidence against the three ministers. One, the Honorable Sam Kutesa, that he indeed received money amounting to about $17.5 million through his company called East African Development Limited, Kenya, and that it was wired to his Zurich account. We also got information that on several occasions, the Honorable Hilary Onek received money to his bank in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. And it was, of course, coming to, when you put it into Uganda, it's about 22 billion. The Honorable Amama Mbabazi, we have information from the American Embassy, which up to now, the American Embassy has actually not come out to deny that indeed he received money from any and organized some meetings. And for that reason, and for other purposes, including lobbying and influencing the process, he got money and probably provided the services they wanted. So that's basically what I presented to Parliament. And the reason why I did so is that, look, I looked at these documents. I said, Ugandans have been quietly and at times actually loudly saying there is money that exchanged hands for these oil deals to be passed through. So I said, there are two issues here. One, let's use these now documents to make sure that we have an inquiry into these matters. Two, if indeed these fellows are clean, let it be a moment or an opportunity for them to be absolved. Let it not remain a rumor that indeed they received money. So I said, looking at it with these two issues, I said, I think it is worth presenting to Parliament. And I want to really congratulate the 9th Parliament for having stood its ground, irrespective of the partisan lines. Said, look, if there is any dirt or anything that exchanged hands improperly, let's use our committees. Let's use our members. We constitute an ad hoc committee and investigate this matter. And we are going to investigate.
But Honorable, surely, when you receive this information, and this is where we want to go, on Monday, the whole country sat down and watched in AU as you presented what you called evidence.
Yes.
But everyone is wondering, how authentic are these documents? Because there is word on the street that some of these documents were flying all over this country last year, as early as probably August,
yes,
or even earlier. And the president himself says he got a copy of these documents. But why do you believe them? Why do you so much believe them that you comfortably table them in Parliament without fear?
One, I owe a duty to the citizens of this country. One, who elected me, but two, who spend a lot of their taxpayers' money to make sure that I earn a living to represent them and represent their interests. Now, I learned on this information. On the face of it, it looks truthful. And I said, okay, look, would I actually be doing a service to my country if I chose to sit on these documents? If I had chosen to sit on them, would I have really done a service to the people who elected me to serve them? And the other question was, how about denting the image of the persons involved, probably if they are not truthful? Now, my discernment, I was of the view eventually, that indeed what is important is, because what indeed, like you said, has been out there, that these fellows received money, but nobody knew the truth. Ugandans deserve to know what actually happened. So I said, this could be that very opportunity to expose these fellows, and they come out and say no, and they are absolved. And once they are cleared, then they stand stronger than actually they are or they were before. But let me tell you something. when we began this debate on Monday, there are skeletons that are already rolling out of the cupboard. The Honorable Hiraronek told us that indeed there was an MOU that arbitration wouldn't be done in London. Nobody knew about that. We are in London today. We shall discover why and what happened. Because we are talking about $450 million US. 2, we saw for the first time, I'd never seen this, and probably never see it again, the Right Honorable Prime Minister producing a letter in panic, a letter meant for the Speaker of Parliament, who had just received her copy while the proceedings of Parliament were ongoing. She had not even opened her own copy. The Right Honorable Prime Minister was fidgeting, reading the letter to Parliament. The letter was not even copied to him.
NTV has actually seen a copy of this letter.
Yes.
And it's only copied to the Finance Minister.
Exactly.
And a few other individuals, not to the Prime Minister. But he says as Prime Minister, all letters to his ministers come to his office.
Oh, that would be interesting, that it actually got to the Prime Minister through his ministers before it gets to the person it was written to. And that, remember, the letter was dated that very day.
Yes.
So I see that. Now, coming to what the President is commenting about, these letters are forgeries. There are 2 or 3 things I want to talk about here. The President is not a forensic expert.
He took an he says, first of all, he did carry out a personal investigation, asked a few people to look into these investigations,
Yes.
which didn't get much information. Then he later asked the IGP to take on the investigations in contact with the members of the UK government, or police force in the UK. And he says that he really took his time to actually do investigations and come to an agreement and a decision that these were actually forgeries.
Yeah. I still come to the same. One, is not a forensic expert. He's not a judge. And we've seen the President before come out stronger and saying, my ministers are clean of the Chogam scandals. A few months later, we see the Vice President being charged and committed to the High Court and sleeping in Rosira, not for a picnic or a beach bash, but actually on remand. We see the 3 ministers being charged and stepping aside over the same because the IGG disagrees with the President. Now, we want to encourage actual President to desist from interfering with the other arms of government. When the judiciary does its work, he comes out to bash it. When Parliament sets out to do its work, to investigate, what is being now carried out in court is out of the Chogam report that was done by the 8th Parliament. So why doesn't he give us an opportunity? Why would you expect from the police that earns about 200,000? Did you think they could investigate Sam Kutesa, for instance, the Honorable?
We want us to come to that because
Yes.
I know when you were tabling these documents,
Yes.
your colleagues had issue with the fact that these ministers would stay in office as investigations go on. But the Vice President, while speaking on Tuesday, did say that the President had no problem with investigations continuing into the bribery allegations.
Yes.
And obviously that says he is committed to the fight against corruption. You seem to disagree.
I honestly, when President Museveni became president, I was about 3 years old. And for a long time, I've thought maybe I would believe him that he's serious about the fight of corruption. But since yesterday afternoon, I really raised my doubts. Why? If he has no problem with the inquiry that Parliament is going to do, why come out, bash Parliament, and say, you know, you begin watering down what people are trying to do and say, oh, what actually these fellows have as if is totally forgery. It is forgery. I have a feeling that President Museveni probably has not even looked at our documents, the documents we are talking about. He could have seen those that were talked about. I'm not very certain whether he has actually seen the ones that we presented to Parliament. Because, and for me, I wonder really if we are serious about these issues. Because we are not just talking about this particular issue as an isolated case. No. We know that these individuals, there is already corroborative evidence. When you talk about corruption in this country, the name of the Honorable Amama Babazi will certainly somehow come out. The name of the Honorable Sam Kutesa will certainly come out.
But he's never been implicated, never been convicted in court.
Now that is the thing. Now, could it be by coincidence that probably every time it comes out, and every time there is a corruption scandal, their names come out? I was not in the 8th Parliament when they mentioned their names. Neither was I in the in Parliament in 1998.
Yes.
When the Honorable Sam Kutesa was censured.
Yes.
So, and by the way, I can tell you, people will not just censure you for the sake of it, because we are human. There must be something really wrong. So, and for the Honorable Sam Kutesa, we had also to see from court whether he's actually, well, he may not have been convicted, but there are charges.
Honorable, let's
Yes.
discuss some of the documents you tabled in Parliament.
Yes.
The one document that several people, and even Kutesa himself, spoke about in Parliament is the one that alleges he received 17 million euro
Yes.
through his East Africa Development, East African Development Limited, Kenya. 17.5 million euros.
Yes.
Surely, he says, even a young child, a very young child, would never believe that he, one individual,
Yes.
can receive 17.5 million euros. So by the 17.5 million euros in Ugandan shillings, let's break it down. How much is that?
It's about 68 billion.
68 billion Uganda shillings.
Yes.
That he as an individual received this one figure in his bank account for his company as a bribe. Would you actually, when you looked at the documents, do you actually also believe the figure 17.5? Do you probably think it was a mistake? Would anyone bribe a human being in this society, in this world, even if it was gun trading or whatever, with 17 million euros? Do you believe that document?
I certainly do believe it.
Why?
We are talking about our oil, which is worth 2 trillion US dollars. Just think about it. 2 trillion US dollars. What's the ratio of just 17 million euros? It's probably less than 1%. And indeed it is. So what would this company lose to give out less than 1% to get to share on the 2 trillion? What would it lose? That would be, it's a very small fraction, very small. And you see, it's very well, we are a poor country, that's very true. But I can tell you, some of these companies, that's not a lot of money. That's money they can actually make in 1 month. So, it is, and again, I mean, the Honorable Sam Kutesa, with all due respect, he is known to be a very rich man. And probably to take him anything, you probably have to plan, and it has to be big. So, I don't want us to really try to reduce it to be a small check between, for instance, me and you, Mugisha. Probably, I don't know how much you would want to propose, because you'd say, oh, the Honorable Karuhanga is not a very rich man, and you'd probably bring a very little sum, and I would certainly refuse it. But what we're trying to say here, it's not, we are not convicting these gentlemen. What we are saying is, look, the allegations, let's investigate into them. These very documents may not necessarily be the gospel truth, but we can certainly get some information. And indeed, like you saw, just a few hours of debate with no access to any other information. Already you could see some information on the floor of Parliament. Now, how about 3 months, 90 days of a committed committee looking and receiving evidence from all witnesses? There are 2 sources that I think will be very helpful in this. One, I am aware that every time we have a deal, or there is a deal anywhere, especially for the dirty ones, the sharing in most cases is very bad. There are people who agree, there are people who are cheated in the sharing. And they will certainly come out all the time. Anytime you call them or you mention something, they will come out to expose their colleagues. That happens all the time. The other second source that will be very helpful is the Ugandans out there who are so committed, concerned about their country, to see that it has kept going down. And now this time not the dogs, probably the dogs have come to eat. And you know, you have youth who are very unemployed, you have no drugs in the hospitals, the teachers are paid a meager fee, the policemen are crying, the doctors are running to Rwanda and South Africa, and they are wondering, where does their money go? We pay a lot of taxes. I am sure, Mugisha, probably from your salary, you pay a lot of money. So we want to find out what has been happening. What is the gap?
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Honorable. We are going to take a very short break. But before we do that, our poll question for today is, do you believe the bribery claims labeled against 3 government ministers and the authenticity of the documents tabled in Parliament? Do you believe the bribery claims labeled against 3 government ministers and the authenticity of the documents tabled in Parliament? SMS your yes or no answer to 8778. We will give you the results of that poll towards the end of this show. We take a short break. When I come back, I will be asking the Honourable Member of Parliament whether he is a front for the aggrieved oil companies or politicians trying to fight each other. Don't go away.